well because it is done in, through, and as the divine. And if any of what has come through me resonates with you in any way, shape, or form, I invite you to join me in sealing this truth by saying Amen, Ashe, and so it is.
Good morning, heart and soul center of light. I am Reverend Jack Elliott, and I am so pleased to be your speaker today. You know, I was reminded when I was putting together this talk that my talk today was about dealing with getting back on track whenever we get off track spiritually. To remember that we're rooted in principle. We use our practices to help us renew ourselves, and we stay reconnected by the community we keep. And so one of the things that I want to invite us to remember that, quite frankly, I had forgotten, is that we are connecting with people that we don't even know. And you are one of those folks that can make that happen. What I am talking about is the Heart and Soul Center of Light podcast. Now, I have heard in the announcements for the past several months about, and you can join our podcast or you can listen to our podcast. And I'm bringing a little shame to the pulpit today. I'm letting you know in full disclosure of my humbleness and my truth-telling, I've never listened to the Heart and Soul podcast. And I love podcasts. So last Sunday, I was talking to the Reverend Dr. Andrea Earl about her talk and, going to that mountain of despair and dealing with some of those things. And I thought, okay, I'm going to listen to it one more time as I prepare for what I want to talk about today. And I was about to go to YouTube to click on the video to watch the thing, and I thought, wait a minute. If I go to Spotify, I can download the Heart and Soul Center of Light podcast, subscribe to it, and I can listen to it every week. I don't have to wait. I don't have to go find it. It's just there. And what I wanted to say is I was impressed with how well it is put together. And so I'm giving you homework right at the top of the message. I know that there is someone, including myself, that can't wait to hear today's message. Because I have no idea what all is going to come forth. So I can't wait to hear it. And I want to invite you to make it a part of your spiritual practice to listen to the podcast. And then we're going to get really radical. I'm going to invite you to share it. Copy that link, drop it in your social media feed, drop it in your messages, email it to somebody, because somebody needs to hear the word. And you have been called to be one of the folks that bring it to us. Because this is how this thing happens. Folks listen to the podcast, then they want to know more about us. And if they're going to get curious, then they're going to pay attention and maybe watch on YouTube or go to the live feed on a Sunday morning. Or maybe they'll go to the heartsoulcenter.org website and find it there. But nevertheless, they're getting curious, and so they're going to show up here. Because that is how the thing works. We spent all of 2024 adopting this belief that this stuff works. 2025 is our call to action to demonstrate that this stuff works. Okay, so are you in? Yeah. Okay, we're going to do this thing. Right now, we're going to be inspired. We're going to be inspired by Valerie Joy Piedmont and by Amy D. So, ladies.
One, two, 1, 2, 3, 4. I am light, I am light. 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 I am not the things my family did. I am not the voices in my head. I am not the pieces of the brokenness inside. I am light. I am light, 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 I am light. I'm not the mistakes that I have made or any of the things that cause me pain. I am not the pieces of the dream I left behind. I am light. 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 I am not the color of my eyes. I am not the skin on the outside. I am not my age. I am not my race. My soul inside. All light. All light. I am light, I am light. I am light, I am light. I am divinity defined. I am the God on the inside. I am a star, a piece of it all. I am light.
I'm going to ask you, wherever you are right now, to go to a very sacred place within your heart. And I was just led to do this. I'm going to ask you to say, with the most certainty of how you have ever spoken, these three words: I am love. So on the count of 3, 1, 2, 3. I am love. Once again. I am love. And finally, once again, and sell it to the folks in the back row. I am love. All right. So that is your mantra for this week. Whenever something anything unlike love comes up, I want you to say out loud, and don't worry about being embarrassed if somebody hears you, that I am love. That is the immediate way to become reconnected, get back on track, and remember from whence you come. Now, I have about 14 metaphors that I could throw at you today. I'm preparing for this talk. And I don't know which ones are going to come out, because I don't know if your experience is anything like my experience, but wow, what a week. What a week indeed. Now, here's where we get to really test this thing. We opened with the affirmation, I am absolutely grateful for what? Everything. Now, for if anyone was watching me or watching you this week, they got to see me say that. And then I would hear something and I'd be wagging my finger like my mother used to. How could, well. And then last Sunday, I was speaking from the pulpit with our friends that are your loving cousins, notice CSL Visalia. And I was saying we were praying because last Sunday, it was the day before inauguration. Now, the year that has passed since then, I just want to take you back that 1 week and hear these folks praying, I am affirming the highest and the best for my country and for our new leadership, and I know all is well with God. One of my congregants called me on Wednesday and said, Reverend Jack, you've been talking about these spiritual principles and practices. I had no idea I was going to use them all by the third day. So hang on. Hang on. When Reverend Dr. Andriette talked last Sunday about going to the mountain of despair, but being willing to face it, got your hiking clothes on? We're going there. But one of the images that came to my mind as she was telling that story last Sunday was, now I know you're not going to believe what I'm about to say, but when I was a child and I visited the mountains in southern Indiana, wait for a moment, to us that lived in the northern 2/3 of Indiana, where it was absolutely flat, those rolling hills in southern Indiana were called small mountains. We're not going to debate that because these mountains were big enough that to a child, they were pretty intimidating. And then one of the things that my stepfather and mother decided that they were going to do one summer is go to visit the caves within the mountains in southern Indiana. Now, me being who I am, I could think of no reason why I would want to intentionally walk inside of a cave and go for who knows what was in there. And I was like, just go see. Just go see. And once you get inside, you start to see, I'm not going to say the word correctly, but those crystals that form? And make it, yes, and make those beautiful reflections, and you're just, ah. And I realized, and I was taught, and a part of that lesson was, that if you're not willing to go face your fear, you're never going to see the gift that lies within it. Okay? So it's like, okay, can I use that this week? Okay, maybe. And then one of the things that I was really thinking about was this phrase that I opened with, where I said, okay, last year we affirmed the belief that we believe this stuff works. This year we've got to be the demonstration of that. How can we do that? Because here's what I know. People are watching you. They're watching you to see how you react to what you're reacting to. And here's what we don't want to do. We don't want to go neutral. We do not want to go neutral. Just to give you an idea of what I mean, 19 million registered Democrats went neutral in the last election. That was one of those things that, I never want to be a part of that. Now, just in fairness, I'm sure there are some Republicans that didn't want to make a stand and went neutral, and some independents. Folks went neutral. But here's what we know in this teaching. One of the laws is cause and effect. Look what the effect of that was in our world. Now, here's the other thing. One of the things that I was just kind of like in that moment of thinking, am I really, what's mine to say? What is mine to do with this? What is mine to be aware of? I remembered in a story that I have told you many times before. I apologize already, but sing along with the second verse if you know it. In Mrs. Stockdale's Sunday school class, when I was 5 years old, the thing that made me sit up was when she was talking about Matthew 25. And if you don't know, it is when the master teacher, Yeshua, told the story that this is the only gospel you need to know. And he talks about the day that the sheep were separated from the goats. And the sheep were told, I was hungry and you fed me. I was thirsty and you gave me drink. I was unclothed and you clothed me. I was sick and you visited me. I was in prison and you came to be with me. And of course, the people that are just out there doing it, the sheep, they responded by saying, but when? When did we ever see you being any of those things? And it was reported back to them to say, as least as you did it for one of us, you did it for me. And for those goats, those that decided to be moderate, those that decided to just wait and see, they said, well, when did we see you that way? Because surely if we'd have seen you, we would have done something. As much as you didn't do it for those, you didn't do it for me. So, okay, that has been my go-to gospel for my entire life. So when I heard the Right Reverend Bishop Bundy use that Bible verse, I can't be moderate. I have been called out. I have been called out to remind us that we each have something to do. We cannot be moderate. Everything that we have done in our life to date has been preparing us for this moment of now. We know how to turn fear to faith. We teach it. It's one of our principles in this faith, this philosophy, this way of living, that you can transform fear into faith. Either you believe it or you're moderate. Okay? Time to choose. I'm going to test it. I'm going to see. Here's the other thing that we know. We know that we have the principles and the practices to get us back on track even in times like this. So I want to talk a little bit about those people, those folks that are watching you. It may not be the time when you first meet someone and to pull out the entire list from the appendix of the Science of Mind textbook and start reading to them about what it is that we believe. That will come later. In the meantime, though, you can pull upon what I call some of the secular practices that are aligned with our teaching, such as Don Miguel Ruiz's 4 agreements, to kind of meet them where they are. Because when people are curious about what we're up to and why we can still know joy and why we can still know peace even in times like this, we got to give them some answers. Because they may just think, okay, well, they've really disconnected. And so we want to go, okay, well, let's look at Don Miguel Ruiz's 4 agreements. I will be impeccable with my word. Bring the receipts for whatever comes out of your mouth, is the Reverend Jack Elliott translation of that. Don't just share gossip that you hear, even if your ego agrees with it. Even if you can't wait to tell the story how someone may have looked foolish, fallen, done it wrong. That's not who we are. If you get something to share, make sure you can back it up. If you're going to be talking about the fires in LA, talk about the heroes and the sheroes. Talk about the people that are going to help. When I heard, I'll give you a good example, Altadena. I had no idea that Altadena was the jazz enclave that it is. That musicians are thriving there. Many of them not only lost their homes, but they lost their equipment. Gibson Guitars is offering replacement equipment free of charge to any musician who lost something. Did you read that in the news? Okay, probably not. But when you get something, check it out. Go to snoops.com, get a couple of sources, find out the facts, and then share the good news. Share the good news about what's happening. Then, that's being impeccable with your word. Here's the other thing that I want you to remember. Now, this is one of my spiritual principles that is aligned with the teaching of the Science of Mind, but it's a reminder that everything that comes out of your mouth is a prayer. What do you want to take back that you've already said today? You see, we have to own that. And there's some times in a week like we've just had that we want to say some stuff. We want to, But I'm going to turn you on to a gift that we were reminded of by Eckhart Tolle in his book, A New Earth. The voices in your head, that's not you. You are the silence before you speak. You are the silence before you speak. If I was going to say what my grandmother said, if you can't say anything nice, don't say anything at all. If you need to say something, find the most empathetic, compassionate, and loving way to say it. So, that's that opportunity right there. The other silence is after we've spoken. So this week, I'm going to call upon you to embrace that silence right before you're about to speak, even if you have to go. It will make you look like you're intelligent, inquisitive. Let me think about what I'm about to say here. And then make sure that it's affirmative. Because what you are about to say, is a prayer. And the universe is going, I don't know why she wants that, but okay. We're going to make it happen because of the law of cause and effect. You prayed for it. You imagined it. You put your focus there. You set your intention. This is going to be a hard day. Okay, don't know why. My knee is going to be hurting so bad today. Really? Okay, you want that knee to hurt? Well, let's make that happen. Look how the universe works. Now, here's the next one. Hang on, buckle your seatbelt. Don't take anything personally. I know they mean everybody else but me. At least that's what my ego wants to say. So a part of not taking anything personally is to remember that your ego's number one job from its point of view is to protect you and give you whatever you've asked for. Okay? The ego is satisfying the urge. Freud would call it your id. Your id goes, oh, I want ice cream. And your ego goes, well, Baskin-Robbins is open and they have 31 flavors. And then your alter ego, or we might call it the divine spirit, might say, now really? You know there is yogurt in the refrigerator. Okay, so that's how you might explain it to somebody. The ego is just going to give you what that first thing that comes out says that you want. But you've got to take in that pause, connect with the divine, and ask what is for the highest and best. Okay, so here's that opportunity by not taking it personally. Now that's a challenge, because if we are triggered by some of the stuff that's happening out in the world, or what we think about it, or what scares us about it, or what we're concerned about, and we get a customer service rep that's a little curt, rude, guess what? They're going to pay the price of all the things that we've carried that we have not let go of that triggers us. Again, that silence before we speak is essential right there. But here, it got to flip this around. We got to also understand that from them. We don't know that they have just been told that they're going to be laid off and replaced by artificial intelligence. We don't know that they just were denied a health care claim for their child that was sick. They don't know that they were just taken off of the rolls of the Affordable Care Act. So they're bringing it too. And so we're not going to believe that it has anything to do with us. Which leads us right into the next one. Do not make assumptions. Do not make assumptions that this is all doom and gloom. Now, I am sure, again, I know this has not happened to anybody in this room. The wrong person has come into your life for the right reason. The wrong person has come into your life for the right reason. Sometimes we want to tell the story of what a jerk they were, but what it realized is I would have never met you had I not met them. I would have never known this faith, this philosophy, this way of living, had I not been in such pain that I looked for something to deal with the loss of losing them. Do you get that? So sometimes we have to realize that even now, there's some stuff that could be happening. All for the wrong reasons. What's the gift in it? If I am going to say I'm absolutely grateful for everything, then it is on us to go find the gift within the thing. It is on us to go to that mountain to look for the crystals that are within it. We got to go do the work. We've got to go do the work. Now, the fourth agreement, to do your best always. What's that reminding us of? We're just humans out here doing the best we can. None of us showed up with our operation manual when we came to this earth. And we certainly didn't give it to anybody else to know how to be with us. We didn't even read it ourselves. So what we're about is writing it as we go. And here's what I want you to know about that. You already know what to do by the principles you live by. Now, what do I mean by that? Well, here's what I'm going to invite you to consider. Your life right now in January of 2025 is the mirror of the principles and the spiritual practices you live by. It is. So if it doesn't quite look like what you want it to look like, time to do a little discernment and go in and fix some stuff. That's okay. Time to reconfigure, rearrange. Maybe bring in a new tool, a new something to use in this process. That's okay. You're teaching other people how to do that when that happens in their life because you're willing to do it in your life. You know, it's like one of the stories that I can't wait to tell, and the Reverend Dr. Andreette goes, well, but I'm going to tell it anyway. It's really one of those things where we're looking at our relationship with other people, and we understand that there is a thing called objective truth and personal truth. And that much of our life is led through our personal truth. So, you know, again, this metaphor was speaking of 4 blind people that lived together. Now, I've been of late paying attention to stories and metaphors about blind people. What can I learn from that? What can I bring in? So this is a story that you probably heard in some way, shape, or form about a village with 4 blind people, and a circus was going to pass by. And an elephant was going to be brought to the town square as a way to promote the circus. So these 4 blind men were sitting around and they wanted to go experience this elephant. So they went to go experience the elephant in the town square. And the first person went up and they touched and they felt and they go, oh, wow. It feels like ivory, and it's long and it's sharp and it's pointy. That's what an elephant is. And the other person said, you are crazy. It's this ear thing is this big leafy thing that feels like it could flap in the wind, and it's just, that's what the elephant is. And the third person goes, no, they were touching the trunk, and they go, an elephant is a snake. It's a snake, that's what it is. It's just like a snake. And another person, the fourth blind person, was touching the coiled tail, and it's like a spring. It's a coil. Now, objectively, the elephant was in the town square. But each of them had a different personal truth of what it is that they're experiencing. So as people in this practice, when we are engaged with one another, we may have to acknowledge that we're all seeing, experiencing the same thing, but differently than how the person right next to us is experiencing the thing. Bring the receipts. Get to the objective truth in the matter before you speak on it. Otherwise, you just may be telling the world that an elephant is just like a snake. You'd be telling the truth from your point of view. But others would be looking at you going, okay, we won't be asking her anymore. And we don't want that. We don't want that. We want to understand that if we are going to be the messengers, if we're going to be the ones to call to be the demonstration, we got to lift up the heroes in this. We've got to be the one constantly praising the people that we think are doing the right thing. And we've got to sometimes say no to other stuff. To say no. And that is a personal charge. That we have to look to our heroes. So one of the things that I want to remind you of, another principle that you operate from are your values. And are you being true to those values? Now you may say, I don't necessarily know what attributes describe the values that I live by. Well, look to your heroes. If you were to look at Dr. King and assign an attribute that you value in him, maybe it is a peaceful messenger. You wouldn't see it in him if it wasn't true for you. That's one of your values. Okay? So if you see someone standing proud and smiling as they walk into the room, even though they hear boos from the back row, what value, what attribute are you going to lay upon them for being willing to be the example? Whatever word you choose is true for you. So then you have this opportunity to get back on track and activate that value. Let me be the demonstration of what it is to be peaceful in the middle of chaos. Let me be the example of that in my family. Let me be the example of that in my workplace. If some place, if some institution that I value has suddenly come out and said, we're not doing DEI here anymore, what you going to do with that? Are you going to be moderate and just stand there in your disappointment? Then if that's the case, disappointment is one of the values that you live by. How's that working out for you? If it's one of the values that you've adopted and are living, guess what? The universe is going to give you more things to be disappointed about. It's time to prove that this stuff works. So I am going to find and not allow anyone else to be the source of my disappointment. So it may be calling me into the action to say, if I see something, I must say something. But how do you say it? I am love. Therefore, I am called to say, I can't support you in this. I'm still going to go in here and I'm still going to buy products that are manufactured by folks within my community because I know they're not going to get paid if they have to send this stuff back. But I'm not buying another thing in this store. You have lost my business, for I am love. Okay? And starting to make those decisions. And not act out of, well, I got to go there anyway because it's convenient. So there's this opportunity with some folks to say, okay, now I look at my hometown of Winchester, Indiana, and I know that the only place that anyone in that town can buy their groceries is a store with a word that ends in mart and starts with wall. Okay, there's going to be some folks that don't eat if they choose not to go there. So we can't beat them up for going there because we have a choice to go somewhere else. But what we can do is to remind them of the products that might be sold there that are folks that are still supporting what is for the highest and best. Do some educating. Make that choice. And say, if they say to you, do you go there? Well, I only go there for the fresh produce because I know the produce that is sold there has been raised by the farmers in East Central Indiana. So yeah, that's what I buy when I go there. And so we start to make those choices in life to be the demonstration of how you negotiate a time like this. Okay? And so it's going to be, I'm not going to make this a negative thing, so that's why I'm editing my words right now. We're going to be a choice. We're always going to be a choice. And some things I will be called to do as an ally, advocate, or co-conspirator, but I don't have to do everything. What I do is what I do, and what you do is what you do, and what you do is what you do, and what you do is what you do. And that's the momentum that we're looking for. That's reconnecting to a spiritual community that we believe in. And that's the momentum that will cause there to be the shift that we want to have happen. So, the other thing is to look at our day to day. As that woman said to me this week, I had no idea that I'd use up everything by the third day. Okay, you just got to reconnect. You got to have the practices of your day-to-day life that is affirming your highest and best because you've already proclaimed a mission. I am love. Do not do anything during the day that is anything that does not support that affirmation of I am love. Okay? We may have to shut some stuff off. We may have to shut some stuff off. Now, that's a slippery slope. And I was reminded as I was talking to someone this week, it's like, okay, how do I break out of this silo of news that only reinforces what I want to believe? I've got to hear objective truth. Now, many of you just already said, well, does that really exist, Reverend Jack? No, we got to go look for it. And here's what I'm reminded of. My parents subscribed to 5 newspapers. 2 were liberal, 2 were conservative, and the 5th was the local news, the local paper. Somehow there was a thing in knowing who died. Every morning was looking at the obituaries. And my stepfather would say, as long as my name's not there, it's going to be a good day. But the other 4 newspapers gave them a variety of points of view. And that allowed them to have a conversation over lunch or dinner. Well, what do you think about this? What do you think about that? What do you think about this? And they discussed it and decided what they believe and what they would do with what it was that they believed. They got the information from a variety of sources. And so one of the things that is available to us today, if you want to go to news, how many people have Siri, Google, or Alexa? No one. I just check. I have all 3, and one of my favorite things is when they argue with one another. I will ask Google what the weather is in Winchester, Indiana, and Siri will tell me what the weather is in Winchester, United Kingdom. It just happens. They're all listening to one another. But what I found through a little research is I can say to Alexa, play AP News. That's Associated Press. That's where every news source goes to get their news. Then they add their story to it. Okay, so I set it up so at a certain time during the day, I will say, Alexa, play AP News. And I get as close to the original truth as possible. Other folks might choose Reuters as a news source because, again, it's another neutral source where everybody gets the news and then they put their spin on it. But I can put my own spin on it. But it's kind of like what my parents did. I would hear, okay, that's what the AP is saying, that's what Reuters is saying. I'm not buying into anymore what MSNBC is saying. I'm not buying into what CNN is saying because I can go to the effect of that. I just need to know what's going on in the world, and then I am intelligent enough to go to Spirit to say, what is mine to do with this? What is mine to do with this? It's just enough. But it's also what's playing in the background of your life. What's playing in the background of your life? One of the things I would not know of audiobooks had I not shared a ride and ridden in the car with Reverend Angelo. But I used to love getting in his car whenever he would pick me up or drop me off because there would be some book playing and it was like, oh, what's that? And then I went to Audible and I started to download all of my favorite books that I knew would inspire me, that I knew that would support my day. And so that's what I listened to. I've now downloaded, as I said earlier, the Heart and Soul Center of Light podcast onto Spotify so that even if I forget to go there, as soon as I finish listening to Stacey Abrams' podcast, suddenly the Heart and Soul podcast comes on. And right after that, the Michael Eric Dyson podcast comes on. And right after that, Neil deGrasse comes on. And suddenly, I'm just supported by intelligent people that have my highest and best in mind. They're positive. What are the lyrics to the songs that you are listening to? I know you're only listening to folks like Valerie Joy Fidman. You're only listening to Amy D. in it because you know what it will inspire you. It's the soundtrack of your life. Be willing to say to the Uber and Lyft driver, please turn that off. Please turn that off. That doesn't work for me. They may not even be conscious to what it is that they're listening to. But you're paying the price for that time in that car, so you get to say what it is. Does that make sense? So this is how we are going to survive a time like this. In fact, I am no longer going to say, I'm going to survive a time like this. I'm going to thrive even in a time like this because I am love. And that's the message. That's what we have to walk through, walk proudly through, unapologetically, because we know who and whose we are. This is our calling. This is our calling. And if we get off track, that's okay. We're just out there being human. As Reverend Sonia would say, we're just out there peopling. People being people, peopling. We're doing what we're doing. So we're going to be impeccable with our word. We are not going to take anything personally. We're not going to make assumptions. And we're going to do our best always. And we're going to call upon those values that we admire in others to be what we use to do what we are called to do. So right now, what I am called to do is to invite Valerie Joy to go to the piano and Amy to get ready to bless us with a song. And I'm going to say, thank you, thank you, thank you.
Something that I wrote, and it's an affirmation for self-love. So in those moments when you get lost in the noise, this is something that you can come back to. Move like you, breathe like you, sing like you. Yourself, brave like you, bold like you, strong like you love yourself, like you've never known the weight of heavy-hearted, like you've overcome and the walls, like you're standing in your greatness, you were born